Imagine you're a woman living in 16th century Scotland. You know herbal remedies. You help your neighbors through difficult pregnancies. Maybe you're a bit odd-looking, a bit quarrelsome, a bit too independent for your community's comfort. One morning, your neighbor, who owes you money, wakes up with a hangover after a night of drinking and accuses you of bewitching her. That's it. That's all it takes. This isn't fiction. This happened to thousands of real women. And the book we're talking about today doesn't just tell you the history. It walks you through the whole process, step by step, like a manual. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into How to Kill a Witch by Claire Mitchell KC and Zoe Venditozzi, two Scottish women who set out to expose one of the most brutal, systematic persecutions of women in human history. And what they found will genuinely shock you. Before we get into the book, let me tell you how this project was born, because the backstory is remarkable. Claire Mitchell is a King's Counsel, a top-level lawyer in Scotland. Zoe Venditozzi is a writer. They met at a wedding, bonded over true crime podcasts, and hatched a theory. Women love true crime because it's pragmatic. You're learning how not to get murdered, and there's an element of bearing witness to all the women who weren't so lucky. Claire had a revelation standing in Prince's Street Gardens in Edinburgh, right next to a monument to a man whose ghost supposedly attacks people. Meanwhile, thousands of women have been executed as witches in that very city. No memorial, no apology, nothing. So in 2020, from Zoe's basement, using an iPhone propped on a washing machine, they launched the Witches of Scotland podcast and campaign. It became a global phenomenon. In 2022, on International Women's Day, the First Minister of Scotland issued the first formal state apology to all those accused of witchcraft in Scotland, the first official recognition in 300 years. This book is the result of that journey. Chapter 1. How to Believe in Magic. The book opens with Elspeth Rioch, a young girl in 1616 Scotland who was given the gift of second sight by fairy men who appear to her by a lock. She earned money healing people and advising neighbors. She was also in an abusive relationship with a spirit guide who had robbed her of speech. Now, to a modern reader, this sounds insane. But the authors make a crucial point. Magic was completely, utterly real to everyone in this era. This wasn't stupidity. In a world without germ theory, without weather forecasting, without medicine, magic was how people explained the unexplainable. The devil was a fact. He could take human form, seduce women, throw parties, and corrupt souls. You couldn't prove otherwise any more than we could disprove subatomic particles. Here's the kicker: we still carry these instincts. We check horoscopes. We knock on wood. We consult psychics. We manifest. The desire to control an uncertain world has never left us. We've just swapped some of the tools. Chapter 2. How to Start a Witch Hunt. Scotland had the perfect conditions for mass persecution. In 1560, Scotland went through the Protestant Reformation, led by the fiery John Knox, who literally inspired mobs to tear down Catholic churches. The new Protestant church needed to establish dominance, consolidate power, and eliminate anything that smelled of the old ways. Magic, charms, folk healing, anything outside the official church's control. So in 1563, the Scottish Parliament passed the Witchcraft Act, making it a capital crime to practice witchcraft, sorcery, or necromancy, or even to seek help from those who did. The punishment: death. Here's what's wild. Nowhere in this act does it mention women specifically. The language is completely gender neutral. And yet, 85% of the roughly 4,000 people accused of witchcraft in Scotland were women. Why? The authors are brutally clear. This was misogyny, codified by the state and blessed by the church. Women were seen as weaker, more susceptible to the devil's temptations, more likely to be grasping, jealous, and corrupt. They were the perfect scapegoat for society's fears. Then came the king who made it personal. King James VI grew up as an orphan under Protestant regents, hyper-vigilant about the devil's plots. When his new bride, Anne of Denmark, was delayed crossing the sea due to storms, he became convinced witches were responsible. Demons traveling in little barrels to cause tempests. He sailed to Oslo himself, married and in person, and came back absolutely obsessed with witchcraft. Chapters 3 and 4. The Two Great Documents. The book examines two key texts that supercharged the witch hunts. First, News from Scotland, 1591, a pamphlet about the North Berwick trials, the biggest witch hunt Scotland had ever seen. A servant named Giles Duncan was tortured by her employer when he found her healing abilities suspicious. Under torture, she named dozens of others, including Agnes Sampson, an elderly healer. Agnes was brought before the king, and what she told James convinced him completely. She whispered in his ear the exact words he and his new queen had spoken in private on their wedding night. James swore no devil in hell could have known that, and became a true believer. The resulting document reads like propaganda. Every revelation proved the king was God's chosen protector. But the message was clear. Witches are everywhere. They want to kill the king, and only the righteous can stop them. Second, Demonology, 1597. King James's own textbook on witch hunting. This wasn't some crackpot pamphlet. This was the sitting monarch of Scotland writing a how-to guide for identifying and destroying witches. He addressed why women were more susceptible. For every one man bewitched, there were 20 women. The devil, naturally, went for the weakest targets. When James later became King James I of England, he took this book with him. It directly influenced Shakespeare's Macbeth and an entire continent's approach to witch persecution. Chapter 5. How to Believe in a Witch. The authors speak with historian Dr. Louise Yeoman, who explains what ordinary people actually believed. In fishing villages on the North Sea, where men died constantly, where crops could fail, and children often didn't survive infancy, you needed something to blame. And the church gave you the framework. If your neighbor cursed you, your boat sank. If you offended a wise woman, your beer spoiled. Historian Marion Gibson adds the most devastating observation. It's about gender. And I think we sometimes forget to say it because we're so busy looking for other explanations. But that central truth, it's about women. Chapter 6. How to Accuse a Witch. This is where the book gets forensic. Witchcraft trials were not pitchfork mobs. They were organized, legal proceedings sanctioned by the church and the state. The process usually began at a kirk session, a local church court run by the parish minister and elders. All it took to be accused was a neighbor's suspicion, a grudge, a bad dream, or someone's debt they wanted to escape. The authors discovered one case where a woman named Jean Bissett accused her neighbor Lilias Adie of bewitching her, right after a night of heavy drinking. Jean happened to owe money to Lilias. The accusation conveniently delayed repayment. Once accused, you were caught in an almost inescapable trap. Chapter 7. How to Prick a Witch. Enter the witch pricker, possibly the most horrifying profession in history. The key evidence of being a witch was the devil's mark, a spot on the body that wouldn't bleed when pricked and felt no pain. This could be a mole, a scar, a birthmark, a callus, anything different. And professional witch prickers were paid to find it. Matthew Hopkins, the self-styled witch finder general of England, was responsible for more witch hangings in 3 years than all the previous 150 years combined. He was 24 years old, the son of a Puritan minister, and according to historian Mary Craig, he was essentially a toxic male influencer, using the terror of the times to make money and assault women under the guise of religious duty. His trick? A retractable pin. Press it to the skin, it retracts into the handle. No blood, no pain. Proof of witchcraft. Cotching. Scotland's equivalent was John Kincaid, involved in 150 to 200 executions, eventually arrested for fraud and deception, quietly released after paying a massive bail. No justice for his victims. Most shocking, Christian Cadell, a woman who disguised herself as a man named John Dick to work as a witch pricker. She infiltrated a community, identified dozens of witches, was eventually exposed as female, and instead of being executed, was transported to Barbados as a servant. Because the authorities were too embarrassed to admit a woman had been fooling them for years. Chapter 8. How to Kill a Witch the American Way, Salem. The authors make a point many people don't realize. The Salem witch trials of 1692 were small compared to Scotland. Salem, roughly 20 executed. Scotland, potentially thousands. But Salem became famous because Americans immediately recognized it as a miscarriage of justice and kept the records. Scotland swept its history under the rug. Salem began when two young girls had seizures, probably brought on by guilt after fortune-telling, a Puritan sin. They named 3 vulnerable women. One of them, Tituba, an enslaved woman beaten by her master, gave a fantastical confession and named more witches. Panic spread. The court accepted spectral evidence, testimony that someone's ghost had attacked you in a dream. Out of 156 accused, 79 were charged based on spectral evidence alone. The trials finally ended when the governor's own wife was accused. Within a generation, Salem was publicly recognized as a catastrophic miscarriage of justice. Reparations were paid. Names were cleared. It became a cultural touchstone for mass hysteria. Arthur Miller's The Crucible used it to critique McCarthyism. Scotland got nothing for 300 years. Chapters 9 and 10. Gathering evidence and the trial. The book examines how confessions were extracted. Torture was legal and routine. Thumbscrews called pillowinks, a head-binding rope called throwing, and most terrifyingly the buddikins, wooden boards encasing the legs, into which wedges were hammered until bone shattered. Under these conditions, people confessed to anything. Sex with the devil, flying on broomsticks, making storms with the bodies of dead men tied to cats. Historian Marion Gibson notes something fascinating. Sometimes in confessions, deeply personal details emerge. A woman confessing to poisoning her husband to escape an abusive marriage or to accidentally killing her daughter during an illegal abortion. These are the moments, Gibson says, where you hear the real voice of the accused. Not the interrogator's formula, but a human being unburdening herself, knowing she's going to die anyway. Chapter 11. How to Burn a Witch. The authors sit down with forensic scientist Dr. Niamh Nictiad to walk through what actually happened at an execution. In Scotland, the standard method was strangulation first, then burning. You were garrotted at the stake, then the fire was lit. Most people were already dead before the flames reached them, but not always. The body would take hours to burn completely. Tendons contracting in heat would move the corpse into a pugilistic stance, fists raised, which observers took as proof of the witch's supernatural power. The smell of burning fat and flesh would hang over the town for hours. Sometimes bystanders used walking canes to push body parts back into the fire. The ashes were meant to be scattered so the devil couldn't reanimate the body. Most of the time, the women had no graves, no markers, no memory. Chapter 12. How to Bury a Witch. The Story of Lilias Adie. This chapter is the most haunting in the book. Lilias Adie was an elderly woman in the fishing village of Torryburn, Fife. In 1704, after the worst of the witch trials had passed, she was accused by a neighbor who'd had too much to drink. Lilias confessed almost immediately. Archaeologist Doug Spears argues the confession was fabricated by the minister, Reverend Logan. The words are copied almost verbatim from a confession made 55 years earlier. Lilias likely confessed from sheer terror and the psychological pressure of imprisonment. Before she could be tried, she died in custody, probably from the brutal conditions. Her body presented the minister with a theological problem. He couldn't burn her without a trial. He couldn't give her a Christian burial. His solution: bury her in the seashore under a half-ton sandstone slab. The sea would trap her revenant. The weight would keep her down. And there she lay for over a century, until a Victorian collector with an interest in phrenology hired a grave robber to steal her skull, which was kept as a curiosity and displayed to house guests. Today, Lilias's grave slab can still be seen at Torryburn Bay at low tide. Her skull's whereabouts remain unknown. Chapters 13 to 15. Modern Witch Accusations. Here is where the book pivots and becomes genuinely disturbing. The authors wanted to believe witch trials were history. They are not. Between 2010 and 2019, more than 20,000 cases of witchcraft-related harm were documented worldwide, in sub-Saharan Africa, India, China, and yes, the United Kingdom. Adie, founder of Advocacy for Accused Witches in Nigeria, describes cases happening right now. A woman in Malawi being buried alive, saved only because police arrived in time. A woman in Nigeria whose brothers tried to drown her, then banished her from her community. A 13-year-old girl tortured by her own family for an entire night, forced to confess to being a witch to make the pain stop. The pattern is identical to 17th century Scotland. Social stress, economic collapse, a power vacuum, scapegoating the vulnerable. In Nigeria today, as doctors leave for better opportunities abroad, prophets and healers fill the healthcare void. People look for supernatural explanations for misfortune. And those explanations always land on someone marginalized. Professor Charlotte Baker discusses people with albinism in sub-Saharan Africa, whose physical difference marks them as supernatural in some belief systems. Body parts of people with albinism are sold as magical ingredients. Children are killed at birth. The UN only passed a resolution addressing this in 2021. And in the UK itself, faith-based child abuse, where children are accused of possession or witchcraft, continues, often in diaspora communities. Social workers and police are still learning to recognize it. The final section is a call to action. The authors ask, where are the memorials? Walk through Edinburgh and you'll find statues of David Livingstone, John Knox, various white men who made money by subjugating others. Across all of Scotland, there are just 23 named female statues. 7 of them are Queen Victoria. There's one small drinking fountain near Edinburgh Castle that acknowledges the witch executions. Its inscription suggests some used their exceptional knowledge for evil purposes. In other words, even the memorial assumes some of them were actually witches. By contrast, Salem has multiple memorials. Norway's Stalneset Memorial in Vardo, marking the execution of 91 people in 1621, is a stunning architectural installation with individual lights for each victim and an art piece by Louise Bourgeois. Scotland is still campaigning for a national memorial. The Survey of Scottish Witchcraft, an online database at the University of Edinburgh, is the best record we have. If you're Scottish, there's a significant chance you're related to someone who was accused. Given that 3,800 people were accused in a country of 900,000, the math is stark. The authors end with a warning that reads like prophecy, written before recent events fully unfolded. When times are bad and people are scared, there are wild allegations of witchery. These are repeated until they become background noise. Discussions take place on whether they're real. Then a political party adopts the allegation. Then it becomes law, and it's coming for you. We've seen it before. We're watching echoes of it now. The rolling back of reproductive rights, the resurgence of rhetoric about women as dangerous, the rise of demonic forces, language, and political discourse, the TikTok algorithms amplifying traditional wife movements. So what do you take from How to Kill a Witch? Here's what struck me most. This persecution wasn't done by monsters. It was done by ordinary people convinced they were righteous, ministers doing God's work, neighbors protecting their community, kings defending their kingdoms. The mechanism was fear, and the fuel was power imbalance. 4,000 people accused in Scotland, at least a third executed, mostly women. Not because they were witches, because they were healers or quarrelsome or independent or simply in the wrong place with the wrong enemy. And then history forgot them. Deliberately, the state burned their bodies and scattered the ashes so there would be nothing left to remember. This book exists to give them back their names. Elspeth Rioch, Agnes Sampson, Guylas Duncan, Lilias Adie, Janet Wishart, Agnes Finney, Isabel Gaudai, Tituba. These were real people. Claire Mitchell and Zoe Venditozzi call on their readers to be, in their wonderful phrase, quarrelsome dames. Take up space. Call out misogyny. Learn this history. Draw the line from then to now. Because the machinery that killed those women didn't disappear. It just went quiet for a while.